Archived episode. Originally posted on June 9th, 2024.
So people ask me all the time if I am ever overwhelmed by the urge to run up to strangers in public to give them messages from departed people. And the answer is no. I am never overwhelmed with the urge to do that. Cannot relate. And I'm going to tell you all about why that is in this episode of the Andy Talks Energy podcast. I'm your host, Andy Ray. This is episode 44. But I'm going to talk about some other stuff first. I haven't watched any horror movies lately, so I'm a little light on reviews. Maybe next episode. I am very excited about House of the Dragon Season 2 coming out, though. Anyone else marking their calendars for, blocking out a solid hour-long chunk of time on the 16th to just stare at Matt Smith? It's in my planner. Matt Smith. Anyway. Let's talk about why good, competent, ethical mediums are not running around out in public forcing readings upon strangers. So the reason why I don't do it on a personal level, call it a temperament issue, but I have no desire to insert myself into other people's business unnecessarily. I'm completely confident in what I can offer as a professional, and I'm not seeking additional validation or confirmation of it when I'm off the clock. I do plenty of readings in a day. I don't feel the urge to seek out opportunities to do more. And I certainly don't need any additional butt kissing, because that's not why I'm doing it to start with. So first things first, good, competent, ethical mediums have boundaries, and they're not just on all the time. We're not available for willy-nilly spirit communication. When we are out at the Cars grocery store. I don't know what kind of grocery stores you guys have out there, but like here we have Cars grocery store. When I'm at Cars picking up my chocolate flavored gluten-free Chex cereal and my lactose-free milk, I'm not paying attention to other people's dead relatives. I'm tuned in to my energy and the energy around me for my own purposes, but I'm filtering out, consciously ignoring any energy connected to other people unless it's actually relevant to me. I always make the joke, like, I'm not aware of anybody around me psychically out in public unless they're going to be a problem. And luckily, those instances are fewish and far between. So, again, I am not picking up willy-nilly spirit communication when I am at the grocery store or out in any public space. Any good, competent, ethical medium that you would actually want a reading from is similarly shut down when they are out in public because there's no need. We are professionals, just like professionals in any other field. We, aren't interested in flipping more burgers after 8 hours of flipping burgers. If mediumship is your full-time job, you probably don't want to do it when you're not on the clock, when you're not on duty, just like anybody else doesn't want to do their job when they're not on duty. It's not that we're blasé about it, but it's that healthy, well-adjusted people have boundaries and they aren't constantly forcing their services upon unsuspecting strangers. Can you imagine standing in line and having a hairdresser come up behind you and be like, I just couldn't help but notice your split ends. Can I just trim these off while you're standing here in line? And you should be like, okay, who the fuck are you? What salon do you work for? How long have you been doing this? I don't know if I want you touching my hair. Your hair doesn't look that good. Again, back to the point I'm always making that you should never want messages from someone who you don't know and have a feel for. You shouldn't even want a reading from someone you don't know and that you haven't had time to learn anything about. Because you never know what kind of morals, ethics, lifestyle choices they're making. You could walk away with a very detrimental experience if you have shady, weird people giving you readings. I don't know if you've seen social media lately, but I really do mean it. You don't want readings from people you don't know. And I just want to remind you that anyone who would put themselves in a position to run up to strangers in public, particularly if they're doing it because they want to post about it on social media, They are likely doing so because it fuels their self-image. It has nothing to do with altruism, nothing to do with representing the work well. It has everything to do with them wanting to feel some type of way about themselves that day. Maybe they want to feel special, maybe they want to feel important, but they're doing it for the wrong reasons. And again, you should not want a reading from someone who's doing it for the wrong reasons. Attention-seeking energy attracts attention-seeking energy. Because of the vibe issue of the individuals who are forcing readings upon strangers, they may not be connecting at the correct level of energy. The information might sound productive, but the end result, again, might not be what's in the best interests of the person who's receiving the reading, particularly if said individuals aren't especially well developed and capable of translating complex messages. When you're out in public, you never know what kind of emotional or psychiatric state a person might be in. I know from vast professional experience that even when someone really, really wants a reading and has waited months for it and has planned for it and prepared for it, they still might not be in the right headspace to make the best use of the information coming through. It might not be the departed person they are most expecting. It might not be information or evidence they can place easily. Sometimes the information and the evidence hasn't even happened yet, therefore making the entire conversation sound batshit crazy. So several reasons there. I don't do it because I don't want to stick my nose in other people's business. No professional who you would actually want a reading from is out there giving readings at random because they don't feel any need to prove anything to themselves or to anyone else. You don't want to trust readings from random people because who knows what kind of lifestyle and vibe issues they've got. And, a random reading isn't always as productive as it looks. Remember, everything you see on television has been edited for narrative effect, and I'm not saying those are bad experiences. I'm saying they're not easily replicatable for randos on the internet who are looking for something to post. And I feel like this is obvious, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. When people are out there forcing readings upon strangers and they're relaying the experience anecdotally for social media content, they could be making it up. I feel like that's obvious. And then even if they're showing the interaction, maybe even if they filmed it or recorded it, you can bet they're not sharing the instances where they approached and the situation backfired. Again, I feel like that's obvious. You're seeing a highly curated example of someone's capabilities. And even then, it could be BS. So I hope this conversation provided some helpful context so that you guys can critically evaluate what you're seeing, certainly on social media and maybe even on TV, just to ensure that you aren't too easily impressed. So my whole premise here is just because theoretically a thing can be done doesn't mean that it should be done, and it doesn't mean that everyone who's trying to do it is actually competent at doing it. All right, that's the big takeaway. So now I'm going to talk about some instances of spontaneous spirit contact where I was overwhelmed to provide a message, except it was first thing in the morning when I was texting a friend. So do as I say, not as I do. It was just kind of funny because it was 3 mornings in a row and I'm like, wow, I'm not even taking my own advice. So I hope someone has told you this at some point in your life. It's poor sleep hygiene. It's poor mental, spiritual hygiene, poor lifestyle hygiene to look at your phone the second you wake up. You should definitely gather yourself and set some intentions and put up some energetic boundaries before you open your phone. But my dumb ass woke up, went, ooh, text messages. So I was texting back and forth with a friend. And as a result, because I walked into a conversation without putting up some boundaries, her grandma used it as an opportunity to get through. And yes, she's done this before. I think I've even talked about it in previous podcast episodes, some of the old archived episodes. But anyway, it was amongst friends. Don't repeat this stunt at home. This was done by professionals. So I was just texting with my friend first thing in the morning, and her grandmother popped in. And I'm like, the minute I became aware of grandma, I was like, oh, guess I forgot to put up my little bubble. But I made the connection anyway, because why not? And this is what Grandma said the first morning. My friend and I were talking about writing, and I said, no, don't enable my procrastination. Also, your grandmother said something about eating enthusiastically, like, definitely eat. So I hope that's important, I said. And she said, ha, I just cooked rice last night that she taught me how to make. The definitely eat is 100% relevant. So my friend and I were just chit-chatting about life path numbers, and she said, interesting. And my next message there was, also, your grandma said something about something that was borrowed but not returned. And she says, I'll have to think about that. I'm sure it fits somewhere. She's been in my dreams a couple of times in the past week. And I said, no biggie. It might even be a heads up in advance, and we left it at that. And later in the day, I received this update message. She says, the borrowed message from Grandma. I just ran into the girl who borrowed a pair of wedges from me. I've been on her ass about returning them to me. And I said, Grandma was just acknowledging your klepto friend. And then we proceeded to talk shit about her friend. And then a little bit later, she sent me an update message. It was a picture of the shoes. And she says, wedges returned. So basically, Grandma was giving her a heads up that she was going to be talking to her friend who had kept her shoes too long, and also was acknowledging the situation because she was going to get the borrowed shoes back later that day. So that would be Grandma giving us a little bit of a heads up about something that was in the process of occurring. And then the next day, I looked at my phone without putting up any boundaries, and I got this fun little message. We were just chit-chatting about Taylor Swift songs, because of course. And I said, also, Grandma said something about cutting hair and updos, like hair that's too long for an updo. And my friend responded, I've been thinking about cutting my hair, but I was worried about what it'll look like when I put it up because I wear my hair up a lot. So let's talk about the unifying theme across those three messages. These three items, if you will, proved some important things. First of all, it proves that Grandma is in her house with her, paying attention to what she's doing and what she's eating. It proves that Grandma is aware of what the people around my friend are up to. She knew that friend was, first of all, she knew that she was going to run into that friend. And also she was aware that the friend had kept the shoes for too long and that the shoes needed to be returned. And that the shoes were going to be returned that day. And then the third morning, there was an acknowledgement of just a thought my friend had had. I hope that makes sense. Basically, anyone can tell you, oh, Grandma's still with you, but they better be telling you what Grandma is reporting back about your day-to-day experience. You know, my friend didn't need that. She knows, right, that Grandma's always with her, but we got her additional validation that Grandma was in her head with her, around the house with her, and paying attention to the behavior and choices of the people around her in advance. So just a fun little 3-part mini series of information coming from her grandma. Now we're going to talk about something that I was delighted to find on social media, which is there is an entire faction of people out there on social media who are posting about dreaming about shopping malls. And not just any malls, but the malls they frequented as children and as teens. And I was delighted to find these because I often dream about the mall I frequented in childhood and that I still go to this day because it's still in operation. And we're going to talk about analyzing these dreams. Particularly, I'm going to use my dream and my analysis of it, which has proven correct, as kind of a teaching tool so that you guys can get a feel for what dream interpretation looks like. So let's establish my street cred here. I have been using my dreams to navigate my life choices since I was a very little kid. My dreams contain information that I end up needing in my waking life, whether it's to resolve things from the past or make a choice in the current or plan for the future. My dreams have always proven to be, well, let me put it this way. My interpretation of my dreams has always proven to be productive for me. I can actually use my dreams to find out about things, make choices, connect with departed people, etc. So that's my street cred as a dream interpreter. I really do walk the walk. So I wrote a whole ebook about that called The Easy Start Guide to Dream Interpretation. It's got a bunch of worksheets in there. It's available for instant download from my Etsy shop, and there will be a link in the show notes. But I really am enthusiastic about people learning to notice patterns in their dreams so they can maybe get more out of their dreams than just oh, that was a weird dream. Because your dreams are so often trying to highlight things that your conscious waking mind might be missing about what needs to happen in your life. So I'm going to use my personal mall dream as like a teaching tool here because I've reached correct conclusions from it. It's not a recurring dream for me in the traditional sense, but that setting does reoccur and different things happen within that setting. But I'm going to talk about my personal analysis of my dream, which is proven correct. So hopefully it'll inspire you guys to do a little dream interpretation of your own. Let's get into it. So when I dream about the mall, I see it as it looked when I was a little kid. And fun fact, because the mall has been remodeled so many times, the escalator and the hallway that I always dream about from my childhood is actually no longer there. It's no longer accessible to the public. The escalator has been ripped out, and the hallway that I used to call my favorite hallway has been made inaccessible to the public. I think they turned it into like back-end office space or whatever, so it's not accessible. And I know that because I went looking for it a couple months ago. I was at the mall for something else, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go see if that hallway I dream about every once in a while is still there. And I couldn't find it. I couldn't find the escalator to get to it, and I'm like, oh shit, they took out the escalator. This is where it used to be. Anyway, so I can't get to it anymore. It now exists only in my dreams, which is kind of spooky when you think about it. Anyway, in the dream that I have, it's always as it was in the 90s. I take the escalator. All the lights are always off and it's always completely desolate. No one's around. That's an important feature of the dream, I think, because, it feels a little spooky, but not in a bad way. It's like something profound is about to happen kind of way. And I have had this dream like several times, always when it's going to end up being applicable. So take the escalator up there, get to what I used to call my favorite hallway. And in this hallway where public library used to be in the upstairs, there was also a Stephen's Bridal. So on the way to the library, which was my favorite place in the world when I was a little kid, we would have to pass Stephen's Bridal. And I don't know if you guys know this about me. I've always been very interested in like fashion design. I've always made interesting costumes. I'm a passable sewer, not to toot my own horn. I'm a passable seamstress. And when I was a little kid, I used to design dresses and I would make doll clothes. I've always been kind of into that kind of thing, I guess. It's probably some carryover from a past life. Who knows? But yeah, we would go past the bridal store and there would be all, the shop window, all the mannequins and their floofy 90s formal wear. So much tulle, so much taffeta, the beads, the sequins, the rhinestones, the sparkles. The mannequins had the crazy 90s or 80s makeup, turquoise eyes and really bright blush. It was just such a vibe, right? Under those bright spotlights at the shop window, you'd have to walk past all these gorgeous gowns and then go to the library. So this hallway encapsulated like my two favorite things. So let's talk about the glaringly obvious metaphor here of adult me standing in a hallway between the library and the bridal shop. So keep in mind, I am a Libra sun sign, Scorpio moon, Scorpio rising. So think of what that says about my priorities, my lifestyle, my interests, etc. So me in a dark hallway, standing between wisdom, knowledge, learning, teaching, words, books, and creativity, expression, sexuality, love, and all the things you would associate with a bridal shop full of gorgeous, beautiful things. So when I'm standing in that hallway in my dreams, I'm always receiving information about things that should be happening, things that are happening, or things that will happen, or maybe things I need to make happen to bring those two things closer together. How to bring wisdom and knowledge and teaching and words closer to creativity and expression and beauty and love and, dare I say, sexuality. Those two things play heavily into my purpose. And that dream location signals to me that I'm about to receive information that blends those two areas of my life together, which is very much what I'm shooting for as a Libra, right? So think of your dreams and where are they set? What's the setting? Is it someplace you recognize from childhood? Do you have mall dreams? Think about what the settings of your dreams are telling you about the message of the dream. And if you have dreams and you're like, I don't know what the hell these mean, I do have a link in my show notes that'll take you to my Etsy shop so you can pick up my Easy Start Guide for Dream Interpretation. So that's actually everything for this episode. If you would like to check out my website that has my fancy scheduling system, my secure payment portal, my client testimonials, and a link to my Etsy shop where you can pick up ebooks, you can find that link in the show notes, andyraymedium.com. Follow me on TikTok. It's Andy Ray Medium, no punctuation, no numbers, no weird spelling. Follow me on Instagram, Andy Ray Medium, no numbers, no punctuation, no weird spelling. Links for everything in the show notes. I have 2 other ebooks. One is for interpreting angel numbers and repeating numbers, and the other is for interpreting signs and synchronicities. So all the DIY intuitive development downloadable materials are available on Etsy. And if you'd like to schedule a private reading with me, that's also available through my website, andyraymedium.com. I have availability towards the end of this month. And actually, I opened up a lot of spots throughout the summer. So if you want to plan ahead, I've got spots open all the way through August, I believe. So I will see you guys out there on social media. Go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. Or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to my channel. Hit the like button, leave a comment. And yeah, I think that's everything. So I will see you guys next episode for episode 45. We'll see ya.